Iraqi squad.
Good morning, all. This is the Sierra County Commission meeting of July 21st, 2026, our regular meeting. This is about the most packed gallery that we've had in this building, so it's good to see all of y'all take interest in your governance and in the activities of this commission. We welcome you, each and every one. We will have some comments, and we're going to preface that, but we'll start with our regular. Teresa, you want to do a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Paxson?
Here.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Also in attendance, County Attorney Cato and County Manager Vaughn.
Thank you, Teresa. If you will, rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Chair Hopkins, would you lead us? Well, you're all a guest, so welcome again. We're glad you're here. I think the reason that you're here is some questions regarding a data center. We're going to have public comment, and we are going to change our agenda just a little bit. I want to introduce the items that we're thinking of for my fellow commissioners. Item 8B. Subject matter of an ordinance repealing Sierra County Spin-Lodge Leda Development Grant. We will remove that. It needs to be refined before we discuss it. Item 9A, the MOU between Sierra County and the City of TRC regarding coordination of development along shared boundaries. We want to table that. It needs a little bit more work before we address it as a commission. Item 10H, Resolution 2026-51, opposing development of large-scale data center. We're going to move that to just after public comment. I know that's the item that most of y'all are interested in, so we'll go ahead and do that. Everybody's busy, and you can go about the rest of your day, and we will continue with our regular business. So, with that, gentlemen, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
As presented. Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion is approved. We need to approve the minutes. We have two. You've got them in your packet. Special meeting of June 9th, and then the regular meeting of June 23rd. Is there any discussion or comments or changes to those minutes?
You want to take them both in one motion?
I would.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the minutes of special meeting June 9th, 2026, and the regular meeting of June 23rd, 2026.
A second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved. One of the great things of this nation is you have the right to come before your governing officials and express your desires and needs and give us comment. I think that's one of the best things about this nation. However, this commission operates under some rules, and we want everybody to have the ability to comment if you so desire, but Attorney Pato, we have some rules for engagement. Would you please give us those?
It'd be my pleasure, Mr. Chairman. At the beginning of the year, in this board's organizational meeting, this board adopted a resolution establishing public participation at Sierra County Commission meetings. And what you've done is you've created a limited public forum that allows people to come out and express their positions, just like you said, and we set time, reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. We don't tell people what they can say or what they can't say, but we do identify and outline how it's going to be presented to this board. And so I'd like to take just a moment to go over those rules if I might. So the first is that, so the freedom of speech is unrestricted. Anyone will be allowed an opportunity to speak during the public comment period at the beginning of the board's regular commission meeting prior to the commencement of action items. Speakers may discuss any subject during that public comment period. In order to promote the orderly, efficient meetings respectful of everyone's time, all individuals are limited to 3-minute period. No individual will be permitted to speak more than one time. No rebuttals to the comments of others will be permitted. Individuals desiring to speak during public comment must sign in on the public comment sheet prior to the commencement of the public comment period. Comments, applause, and other interruptions from the audience are not allowed. Threatening abusive comments that disrupt the meeting will not be tolerated, and all speakers must address the Board of County Commissioners and speak from the podium. And so those are the rules that this board has adopted as it relates to this meeting. Just like the court will not have people with outbursts and craziness and all of that, we won't permit for that here. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct public's business, and we give them the public a 3-minute opportunity to share with the board what they'd like. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to turn it back over to you so we can accept that public comment.
Thank you, Attorney Pato. So I've got a list here, and I may have a hard time reading names, so if you will help me. I just want you to know that we've got 3 minutes on a timer. You'll have 3 minutes, and at the end of that 3 minutes, I'll ask you to stop. And we won't stack comments. You can't hand 3 minutes off to somebody else. Your comments are what's important to us, and we welcome you. If you came in after this sheet was given to me and you would like to comment, we'll open that at the end of this list. But and we're glad you're here. I think this is what makes our government work. So welcome. I've got Brett Malott as the first speaker. Ranger Malott, you got some things you want to share with us?
Chairman, I did not have anything for this meeting. My stuff was for the last month's meeting that was all finalized. My apologies.
Okay, thank you, Brett. Salome Anderson. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello again, Commissioners. I'm Sulame Anderson,
Excuse me.
and I live in Monticello. A lot has happened since the last meeting. It turns out that Spaceport is currently in negotiations to build a supposedly solar-powered data center somewhere within the Tier 1 to Tier 3 range, which is a huge difference in size and capacity. What's more, they have clearly outlined their plans to build 5 more data centers of increasing size and capacity over the next several years in the 2025 Spaceport Master Plan document. Some concerned citizens, including myself, have formed an advocacy group called Project Consequences to oppose the building of data centers in our drought-stricken, resource-poor county, and here we are. I first want to thank Commissioner Hopkins for drafting the resolution that is being proposed today, which opposes the development of large-scale data centers in Sierra County. I'd like to be clear that I think this resolution should pass, as it is an important first step in the right direction, identifying the problem. What needs to be done after that is offer a concrete solution, and that's why we at Project Consequences will continue advocating for an 18-month county moratorium on any such project, similar to what Santa Fe recently passed. This will give us time to determine how best to protect our citizens and natural resources as these projects continue to be fast-tracked through our local governments and regulatory agencies. For example, Project Consequences asked a physicist, an electrical engineer, and an enterprise server and storage professional to review the sublease application between Green Data Ethereum and Spaceport that is currently under review by the Land Commissioner. All 3 experts told us that the numbers proposed in this sublease agreement regarding solar output, battery storage, and water generation and usage were completely divorced from reality. This is a great example of why we need at least 18 months to carefully review these types of project proposals and determine how best to protect Sierra County from the serious consequences currently faced by many communities hosting data centers across the nation. Lastly, we are being told that this is just a small-scale data center, not a hyperscale AI data center, so small that we won't notice any impact on our utilities and water resources, while it will also magically bring lots of jobs and economic development to our county. So I just want to say that it can't really be both those things at the same time, and I'd like to again point to Spaceport's master plan document for an idea of exactly how large scale they intend to build data centers here over the next several years as they continue to search for the water and power necessary to do so. The 6th data center client they plan to lease to will be for a 100,000 square foot facility. Where there's enough money, there's often a way to obtain resources, and that will likely involve hardship for our community members, farmers, and ranchers, as it has in countless other towns and cities across America. I think it's naive to assume Spaceport will be content with building a simple, small-scale computing center, and I encourage a lot of skepticism about that claim, as well as the supposed jobs and economic development that are being promised. A limited amount of mostly short-term construction jobs that have no guarantee of going to local businesses are not worth the potential devastation this could bring to our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sullivan. Okay, at one time, no applause, no cat calls. Each speaker will be respected, and we will continue with the process. Our decorum that we set for this commission is we want to hear from each speaker, not from the crowd. And we'll go forward with that. Joan Baker.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Joan Baker. I work for the United Association Local 412, and I'm a member of the New Mexico Building and Construction Trades Council. And I'm here to speak to you today about one of your most precious resources and data centers. And that resource is your youth. Sierra County has a high number of disengaged youth. And because of that, a nonprofit founded by my union has achieved a federal grant called Youth Build to come into Sierra County and 4 other counties and work with youth between the ages of 16 and 24 and get them to work in the construction trades. Once I come into town and I train them, where will they work? Where will I send them for their work experience and then to be hired to earn over $24 an hour to start? I will be sending them to Santa Teresa, El Paso, or Pecos, Texas. What do those 3 places have in common? They're building data centers. I live in Los Lunas, where the first mega data center was starting to be developed in New Mexico. I live not far from it at all. They have been a good neighbor, and they have brought in $145 million in annual revenue into our tiny little town. I ask this commission, please don't add to hype or misinformation in the anti-data center movement. But I do understand the fear, and I understand the importance of responsibility of data centers. I ask you to table this resolution and rewrite an ordinance for responsible data center advancement. They have one in Bernalillo County that they've already passed. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to take 18 months to reinvent the wheel to protect your water, protect your resources, and offer that opportunity for your youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Hutchinson.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Hutchins, and I have lived in Sierra County the past 10 years. Earlier this month, I attended a grassroots meeting at the Charles Motel in Hot Springs, where over 50 residents raised concerns of potential data centers being constructed in Sierra County. One attendee was a resident of Socorro County who told us on June 9, 2026, his commissioners unanimously approved a 1-year moratorium against new data centers being constructed there. I am requesting Sierra County impose a similar 1-year moratorium against new data centers being constructed in our county. Commissioners, I do not consider myself an activist. As a USDA Forest Service employee for over 50 years, I worked hard to improve federal lands while also building strong communities and relationships. After reading about the massive Project Jupiter data center proposed in Doña Ana County to our south, hearing of the rejection of Green Data Center's proposed data center in Socorro County to our north, and reading that both Spaceport and Green Data Centers seek multiple data centers in Sierra County, I believe it is time Sierra County sends a strong message to all outside interests that our water, air, and quality of life are not for sale. Jason Back, the founder and CEO of the Canadian corporation Green Data Centers, would like to construct data centers at Spaceport. However, he has a history of failed data center projects in the United States. Investigations by Source New Mexico found that Back, neither he or his companies have ever completed a data center, despite multiple attempts to develop them, including a crypto mining facility in Murfreesboro, Illinois, and a failed bid to acquire Harvard, Illinois' former Motorola campus for a solar-powered data hub. Murfreesboro Mayor Will Stevens said of Mr. Back, quote, "The track record that I can see is all style and no substance," unquote. I'm not against growth, job creation, or economic development. I support these endeavors where they do not deplete our dwindling water resources nor impact our air quality. Data centers such as those proposed do not belong in the desert. I agree with the woman who said at the meeting at the Charles, you can't drink data. In the interest of protecting Sierra County's long-term quality of life, approve a moratorium to keep data centers like the ones proposed out of Sierra County. I would like to leave my signed comments with somebody who can I leave them with today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchins. Alice Hutchins?
Thank you, Commissioners, for this time to speak. My name is Alice Hutchins. I'm a resident of Sierra County. There's an old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Or, in this case, us. It would be shameful for us to believe that data centers here in Sierra County will somehow be exempt from the problems plaguing hundreds of communities across America. At the top of the list are stonewalling, misinformation, and blatant lies. Representative Rebecca Dow expressed deep concerns about the Green Data Project recently proposed in Socorro. She asked very specific, relevant questions about water availability, energy sourcing and usage, and verified economic impacts. She also questioned Green Data's transparency and how they would be held accountable for any liability that arose. These are questions a responsible elected official would certainly ask and would expect to have answers. Yet Rebecca Dow clearly says not a single one of her concerns was resolved. If Jason Bach and Green Data Centers could not see fit to respond to our elected officials' valid concerns, they obviously don't have the answers or they don't want us to know. Both of these are unacceptable. It is insulting that these wealthy, powerful corporations expect us to remain uninformed and uneducated about projects affecting our environment, livelihoods, and quality of life. We ask that you, as our county commissioners, exercise due diligence on our behalf when it comes to understanding and evaluating the long-term impacts of developing data centers at the spaceport and any other location in Sierra County. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've included Rebecca's questions, which are well worth reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Read this one. Connie Brown?
Thank you, Commissioners, for drafting this for drafting this resolution. I'm Connie Brown from LPU. In a war, it's understood that there will be casualties as control of an area is gained. Those in the boardroom are the only ones who profit, everyone else sacrifices. In China, from the 1950s through the 1990s, 42% of the country was devoured by desertification. Population pressures encouraged intense logging and overgrazing and stripped away native vegetation. Eroding topsoil and water depletion caused the desert to virtually swallow up farmlands at the rate of nearly 1,000 miles per year. The cost to human life was immense. Millions of people suffered devastating disruptions to their lives, families, and cultures. Farmers faced failure and lost their lands, herders lost grasslands, their livestock starved as water sources dried up entirely. More than 28,000 rivers and tributaries disappeared from the map in that 50 years. In the 1980s, entire regions were no longer habitable. Those misguided practices triggered some of the largest relocation programs in human history. While many moved to escape poverty, others were forced out by the government, their dwindling herds and impotent land confiscated. Where 20th century China degraded its arid lands to feed and house human populations, we are draining our own desert resources to power and scale expanding data centers. 7 decades later, science has determined better practices that allow land to come back and offer life to these regions after their inhabitants lost everything. Much of the data centers are run today in ways that are unknown. They talk of closed cooling systems, but how many gallons of water does that take? 11 million as a startup, 20,000 a day after. What if there's a leak? Will the data center then sue the state for more water, as is happening right now in Imperial Valley in California? And what is the payoff? Your promises of improved water systems and electrical grids and money for education, but promises, especially from strangers, can be empty. We were promised huge financial benefits from spaceport, and instead Sierra County taxpayers fund them with a 0.25% spaceport tax. We pay them over $16,000 a month to exist, and now they want our water. They only guarantee benefactors in this dice game. The only guaranteed benefactors in this dice game are the developers who are pocketing the front money right now. If their plans go sideways, our residents are the one who sacrifice everything. How can it be worth the risk? Who in this room has 70 years to outlive destruction to our water and land of way and living? Who on this commission even has grandchildren who can afford to wait that long? The people of Sierra County are not the ones in this war room. We are expendable. The investors are playing a long game and counting on us to gamble our land, our children's inheritance, and our way of living so that their future generations can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Wiley Smith Peter.
Good morning. I'm pleased to be here and represent all of us against the victors coming in.
Wait just a minute for the microphone to get your battery. We want to hear what you have to say.
I've been a resident of this county for over 31 years. I'm 94 years old, and I'm here to represent everyone against this development of the taking away our water. We don't have it to spare, and my daughter who lives in Cochillo, her water table has dropped over 3 foot in 3 years. And so I feel it's critical that we have our water. I live on the outskirts of Tier C, and I represent everyone against this. Our elephant is getting more barren all the time, and we need that lake. We need it for our tourists, we need the water. And so I'd like to thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith Peter, and it's great that you come before us. There's a hope for our future as we age, so thank you. Denise Balco.
I didn't come prepared with the speech. I'm Denise Balco. I live in Cochillo. I've lived out there 8 years. Our water table's actually dropped 5 feet in the 8 years that I've lived out there. It's part of the aquifer, so that would mean all of us will pay in some way or other if it's dropping that fast. I hate to see our utilities go up, up, up because of the data center and the lack of resources to support something like that. And to think there could be 6 of them, I just don't see how that could be possible. I do appreciate you listening to us on our concern about the water and the bills, utility bills that will increase, trying to cover all these expenses. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Ariel Doherty.
Good morning, Commissioners. 30 years, my husband and I fixed up the toxic old Chevron fuel depot. Along with many others here, I support blocking development of the AI data centers. However, today I'm here concerned about the operation and integrity of the voting process here in Sierra County. First, it is well documented there is very little voter fraud in counties across the United States. President Truman's infomercial last Thursday was to instill voter fear, hoping for passage of the ill-named SAVE Act. Even Republican senators know the greatest affected group by the proposed act will be married women who have taken their husbands' names. Equally, the farce of appointed government officials refusing to acknowledge in hearings who won the 2020 election creates a circus among supposed leaders, further disparaging elections. For the primary here in June, I was timely notified by the clerk of the polling locations. But on the day I couldn't find the list, I have since found it. I looked online. Maybe I didn't go to the county clerk site. For in-town voting, only the Albert Lyons Center came up. As I set out to vote, I drove by the Ralph Edwards Civic Center, where I've usually voted. There were few cars, no readable signs, no white chalk lines, no visible evidence that voting was taking place. At the Lyons Center, there were also no signs until I walked up to the front door. In discussing the lack of signage, I've also learned there were other problems, like a notice going out to papers that only listed some candidates, not all. What else? I expect fair, fully visible, and protected elections here in Sierra County. Maybe a nonpartisan citizens committee could be convened to assist the clerk's office to ensure that the citizenry is adequately served in exercising their right to vote. With a 40% senior population, I urge the county to comply with the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Former Mayor Stephen Green, come on up, Steve.
I apologize. When I was younger, I walked faster.
We're all afflicted with that.
Please don't stop at 3 minutes, Commissioner.
Go.
Chairman, Paxton Commissioners, my name is Stephen Green. I had the honor and privilege of being the mayor of Truth and Consequences and on the commission for 12 years. When it was brought to the commission's attention that the realtors were telling people, buy the houses in the downtown Hot Spring district and you can drill a well and you're right in hot water. Well, we heard that and we realized that the aquifer and all the stewardships of the owners of those hot springs was what we were all about. If we lost that aquifer, we not only would lose 10 businesses, but we would lose the town. We would lose our identity. And what are the stewards talking about? They're talking about water. Whether it's potable water or hot springs water, it's valued. It's the second most valued commodity that we have in our county. The first is our citizens. And as county commissioners, it is your job and your responsibility to protect what is here now and also to look forward to the future. So when we hand off our properties to our children and our grandchildren, we are handing off something of value. I appreciate the resolution. And by the way, what we did is we had, I think I said, we had a moratorium, no more well drilling until we understood the aquifer, how it worked, that Hot Springs Aquifer, how it worked. And we did a study, and then we were able to make intelligent decisions. I appreciate the word stewardship in the resolution, but I also would like to point out that this is really about Spaceport America. How about a resolution about the land of Sierra County? Firm opposition doesn't necessarily, what does that mean? Firm opposition. I would like to see a resolution that pinpoints what is a large data center. Can someone come in here, buy land near Spaceport America, and say, I'm gonna put up 3 or 4 small data centers? Is that considered a large data center? Don't we need a definition of the word so we know what we're talking about? I appreciate this resolution, and I think Spaceport should understand the concerns of Sierra County and its citizens and its 3. Thank you for your time. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Mayor. David Bean.
Thank you for listening to me. I'm here for a little different reason. We had, over 2 years ago, a flood commissioner telling us that he was gonna take care of our problems that we have in Palomas Canyon, Animas Canyon, and Cuchillo, in other areas. Absolutely nothing's been done, and we pay flood tax, every year, and if they're not gonna do any work or, help out with any way, I would, ask the commission, can we just look at this, rescind the flood tax and get it off of our property taxes? So, listening to these people of this, data centers, water is very critical in our area. And if you wanna really see something ugly, drive by Elephant Butte and look at it. It is in the saddest shape I've ever seen, and I've been coming to Smake over 50 years. And their concern should be taken seriously, and whatever can be done, looked at very, with, I don't know, I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, David Bean. Suzanne Carlstead.
It's a hike.
We're recording this, so state your name, please.
Thank you. Suzanne Carlstead, I live in TRC. Like you, I have generally been pretty supportive of the spaceport, but I want to convey today a sense of betrayal that I have toward them, to learn that they've been negotiating with this company since 2021. I'm no water expert, but I think you can just look at the lake and say we have an acute water shortage, and water is everything. I don't know why I should give the spaceport the presumption that they're not going to blithely negotiate away the water that supplies our faucets, our agriculture, our hot springs, and our vegetation. And I know you're not the Spaceport Authority, but I know that you talk to them, so that's my message today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Crystal Jones.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Crystal Jones, and I live here in True the Consequences. I would just like to point out that the idea that these data centers are inevitable or that they're crucial to our economy or our national security is a fallacy. This year, $130 billion of data center projects have been delayed or canceled due to local opposition. And that's a huge 15-month moratorium on new data center developments. Our neighboring Socorro County Commissioners unanimously adopted a year-long moratorium on data centers and related infrastructure projects. Also, our state legislators are proposing a statewide pause to study the industry's impact on energy and water. So there is very good reason to give pause to these types of projects. And you've heard a number of really great arguments for that in the comments before. This is not a radical movement. This is a movement about people, and it's a movement about our quality of life. A lot of times Sierra County falls behind in things, and I don't think we should let this be one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Rebecca Parth.
Thank you, Commissioners, for hearing us today. My name is Rebecca Parr, and I live in Monticello. My profession is accounting and business management. I've worked in law firms, entertainment, nonprofit, tech, and have volunteered considerable time and resources to community support and advocacy groups. But my passion is land stewardship. I've read the proposed resolution and want to thank Commissioner Hopkins for drafting opposition to the development of large-scale data centers in Sierra County. This is a great first step in protecting citizens from private interests that are not value-aligned with this community. Along with other members of Project Consequences, I'm also advocating for a moratorium similar to the one recently passed in Santa Fe. In reviewing the 24-25 government audit of Spaceport, the first thing that strikes me is a lack of transparency for use of funds. The reasoning for this lack of transparency seems to be that Spaceport is still considered in its developmental stage. I can't think of any other industry where after 21 years, an annual spend of $21 million and $50 million in capital projects, an agency is still considered in its infancy stage. Some of the line items include an $11.4 million expended from the general fund, $3.77 for government employees, and $6.7 in contractual services, and a $2.18 million on other costs. This type of lean reporting would not be acceptable to any board I submit to, and while we might not be direct shareholders, this is a publicly subsidized project and we have significant stake in the game. My other concern is if revenues increased so significantly over the last 6 years, then why is Sierra County still listed as one of the poorest areas of our state with a distressed community index rating of 88.7 and ranks in the lowest 25% of the nation's counties, according to the Southwest Border Regional Commission. The sublease that we were able to obtain for green data at Spaceport contains some but not enough financial information. The draft does not have a complete construction budget, operating budget, financing plan, or decommissioning estimate. We still cannot reconstruct the total public subsidy exposure. We have no pricing for utility power upgrades. All of this is important since Mr. Bach has never successfully built anything and instead has left the community of Harvard, Illinois with more than $1 million in outstanding property taxes. Our online petition had 408 signatures as of this morning, as well as handwritten signatures for those who do not have email addresses or access to reliable internet. Not one person that I encountered this weekend knew about the proposed data centers. So I want to thank you for considering that the financial obfuscation and insecurity that these projects carry will inevitably trickle down to the Sierra County residents. And on a personal level, I look forward to working with you to responsibly steward this land. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Beal. I've got Melissa Beal and Vance Beal.
Hello, my name is Melissa Beal. I've lived here for 7 years. I thought this would be my last case. And I'm sorry, I'm not a public speaker, so, but New Mexico has very poor people here. I don't see how the people can pay for more electricity so that a data center can run. And our river is almost dry, Elephant Butte's almost dry. This monsoon season is doing nothing to improve that. And we have no hope that So I don't see how we can give water to these data centers and have water enough for the people that live here. And I've read stories across the country of different data centers and what they have caused in their local area. One said that the data center promised that they would provide their own electricity, and now they're suing the county for electricity. So, and the jobs are very temporary. They're for the building of it. And once that's over, they only need about 100 employees, and they bring most of those in from other areas. So it doesn't really provide the employment here that they promised. And I feel like all of this has been done mostly behind our back, that they're not telling us about it until they're almost ready to build the center. And so we have very little time to stop this. And even an 18-month moratorium is, to me, it's not enough. We need to not build these data centers. We don't have the water. We're thinking we may run out of water without the data centers, because the river is almost dry. Elephant Butte is so low. It's just unbelievable. And so I think this is not meant for the people of New Mexico, and it's going to destroy us. It's going to destroy many of the towns in New Mexico, because we can't afford this water. And they're not going to provide it on their own. So I am just, I'm very much for the moratorium. I just wish it was more permanent. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is Vance gonna speak? Okay, come ahead.
Hello, my name is Vance Beal. Live in Williamsburg. I've said about 7 years. Sorry. I just wanted to thank the people that have talked today. I learned a lot just in this meeting about this that I didn't know. And I think it's a bad thing. It's a bad deal. Don't do it. That's all.
Thank you, sir. I've got Mark and Melanie, and the last name begins with a V. Help me out there.
Hello. Hello, my name is Mark Von Fange. I'd like to thank the commission for having us here today. Me and my wife moved out here in 2017 with our children. Started a fresh start out here. We love the area, we love the land out here. We used to take drives to California on a yearly basis for my previous job, and New Mexico was always just so beautiful. That was one of our main selling points here, is just the natural beauty of this place. Anyway, I previously, as I mentioned, worked for a for a company in California. It was a server company. We did storage servers, we did open source advocacy and professional support services. I was in charge of putting together technical marketing data. I did a white paper on our cost optimization between open source versus enterprise, things along those lines. A lot of data analysis and stuff like that. And one of the big things that I noticed when we look at the lease that was proposed in Spaceport is that the numbers they proposed seemed like they just kind of threw them together on a weekend to look good on paper. For example, the proposed data center is a 7 megawatt data center. The proposed solar grid is 5.5 megawatts. So you say, oh, only 1.5 megawatts difference. That's not a big difference here. But when you look at solar panels, unless the sun is stationary, you don't get 100% output. You get about 25% output, and that's even with tracking of solar panels to track the sun. So what we're looking at with the 5.5 solar grid is actually more like 1.5 megawatts, which leaves from 1.5 to 7 megawatts of a gap that we're going to have to fill with the Sierra County Electric Co-op
up or whatever we have supplying this energy for this region. So it makes it look like it's only a little bit, but it's actually most of it that we're gonna have to fill the gap in. So we need them to give us some real data and real answers on what their output is going to actually provide. My understanding is, and I'll have to look into that, is that there's a limitation to a 6 megawatt solar grid, where if it's below that, you don't have to pay the $175,000 rent that they were proposing they were going to give to us as a benefit of this project. If they keep it below 6, they don't have to pay that at all. So that seems to be an avoidance there, and they're going to leave it on us as a community. Okay, so the map just doesn't seem to map there. It's very vague. It seems put together kind of on the fly. We also have to take a look at, spaceport in general. Is space tourism and data centers going to be able to replace the 150,000 people that come out to the lake on our holidays? It's not the same kind of money coming into our town. You get real estate deals, investment deals on the higher end with people who have, and that's fine, I don't have a problem with that, but it's not really going to supplant, it's not going to, it's not going to supplant the loss of our tourism here. We have 2 tourism centers, our lake and our hot springs districts. Both of them rely on our water table. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Melanie, does she wish to speak?
Yes.
Come on up, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Melanie Von Fange. For having this available to us. Like I said, my name is Melanie Von Fange. I've lived here in Sierra County for the last decade, and my children are making their lives here. I appreciate that you are slowing this process down. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Okay, I appreciate that you all slowed down the process so that we can talk about it and think about it together. Before I became disabled, I worked in technology and open source enterprise systems. I'm not afraid of technology, but I keep getting stuck on one question. What happens when we keep the computers running and when it comes into conflict with protecting our water? We're being told this project will use something called closed loop cooling. It sounds reassuring until we ask what that actually means. The system still has to be filled, it may have to be flushed, it can leak, it needs maintenance and may use chemicals. The documents also describe dry or adiabatic coolers, which may use water when temperatures become too high for dry cooling alone. Now, this matters because Spaceport America does not have municipal water. It gets its water from 3 groundwater wells that already serve the spaceport, and all 3 recently needed work to restore their performance. Now, so what happens on that hottest day of the year, which we've been seeing a lot more of lately? If the servers start overheating, does the system shut down, or does it automatically begin using more water? Does someone approve of that, or does a sensor open that valve? How much can it take before anybody outside the facility knows that there's a problem? I've known system administrators who have done this in war zones, and their job is to keep things running. Data is often legally protected depending on what kind of data it is, so they can't just shut it down if the cooling can't handle it. They have to keep going. And if the data, like I said, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, more than 800,000 gallons of wastewater was discharged with this closed loop data center cooling system while it was being flushed. And what it did was it had a metal-eating bacteria, a very rare metal-eating bacteria that caused the wastewater plant to not be able to treat it, as well as they had to tear out sections of the sewer that was compromised, because if it gets into our water, it's game over. It's metal eating, it's not something that you just get a little sick or something over. It is highly corrosive, and we already have those 3 groundwater wells that are not doing so great according to our own records. And then there's the matter of trust. The data center project being associated with Mr. Boggs in Murfreesboro, Illinois, that was announced 10 years ago, but never became the facility that was promised. And that community was left looking at a deteriorating industrial property eyesore instead. Now, I'm not saying that to attack Mr. Boggs personally, but I do not understand how we're supposed to look at that history and then trust assist them with our water table and our cultural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is just released yesterday regarding strand and metal-eating bacteria.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just not waiting for this. Okay. Did you want this or did you want this? Or did you?
Kyle Smith.
Hello, my name is Kyle Smith. I'm also here to speak about data centers. Everybody has pretty much covered it. I wanted to talk about the jobs and the claims of the jobs and what that actually boils down to. I'm not really gonna be able to talk about that because there's not really much to it. There are so many different examples to use. Somebody came up earlier and said that, you know, they work with trade workers that are gonna have to go to Santa Teresa and other places. I'm sorry, I don't feel like our utilities should increase by 15, 20, 30% so that a handful of people can have salary. We're an entire county that's gonna be impacted by this. These numbers are just absolutely outstanding. I was looking at the Los Lunas Facebook Meta data center. It's apparently a total of 8 buildings. I can't wrap my mind around this. 3.8 million square feet. It's bigger than the Pentagon. They hire permanently 300-ish people. Can you imagine how empty that would be? 750 odd acres. You know how many people the Pentagon has showing up to work every day? About 25,000. These people are telling us that this is a lot of jobs. They're gonna increase every single county. This is no illusion or farce. We just have to look at the history of these things. Of the 8 buildings that Facebook has in Los Lunas, 6 of them are the traditional data centers I spoke to you all about last time. The ones that retrieve binary code and give it back to us. The latest 2 that are under construction right now are the AI ones. And this is what Mr. Green was going to. We do not have a vocabulary for this. And by calling them data centers, they are lying to us. From what I understand, the AI data centers need less people to work them. So if we extrapolate, and we're gonna have a little bit less than 200,000 square feet of data centers of Spaceport. Spaceport's plan goes through, that's less than 10% of the 3.8 million, well less than 10%. So if we just extrapolate and use their numbers for ours, then we're gonna have about 15-ish, 20-ish permanent jobs created from this, ish, maybe, ish. And then a flood of very temporary workers coming in from out of state, blowing up our real estate prices for 6 months. Thank you. Guys, this is a no-brainer. Mr. Hopkins, I appreciate you. Commissioners, I appreciate you. I know this took us all by storm. Trust me, this is what it does. This is happening to every county across the country. We're not special. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Dan Warren.
Thank you, Commissioners. Dan Warren, I live in western Sierra County. And I appreciate your efforts to get this resolution in place. It does say large-scale data centers. I don't know whether that is because you really don't want to infringe on what's going on at the spaceport because it is a small data center perhaps. And now I'm hearing that there's going to be 5 more in addition to the little 7-acre proposal. About 17 years ago, the citizenry of Sierra County passed a 0.25% tax to support the spaceport. And I don't know exactly whether this money that we're paying in will be going to support the data support these kinds of projects out of the spaceport. And then it seems like we get very little opportunity to provide input to what goes on in the spaceport. Part of that is because the New Mexico legislature passed a law that allowed the spaceport to keep things out there confidential. And I think that also affects what you commissioners learn about what's going on out there. I looked at the 34-page lease between the spaceport and the state land office, and I noticed that it now goes for a lease for 40 years. It starts at $22,000 a year, and by the end of the 40 years, it will be up to $633,000 a year that the spaceport will pay to the land office. I don't know if this is because the data center will be providing for profit or by then in 40 years, or whether it's due to the other facilities out there. But by the time the 40 years is up, that $633,000 a year we will be paying to the land office. That'll equate to about 2/3 of the price of one ticket on Virgin Galactic at today's price. So I hope that they, by my calculations, they're gonna be making $5.6 billion a year, flying twice a week with 6 people on each rocket. I just say, let us have time to look at this stuff, and it'd be nice for more public meetings when these kinds of projects come forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Nate Stevens?
Good morning, Nate Stevens. There's an old saying that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. I believe Sierra County is standing at one of those moments. This spring, one of the most comprehensive geothermal studies ever completed in New Mexico identified the Truth or Consequences area, and specifically the Los Colomas Gap, as one of the state's most promising geothermal resources. Shortly afterward, the largest geothermal lease sale in New Mexico's history confirmed that private industry sees the same opportunity. The question is no longer whether geothermal development is coming. The question is whether Sierra County will be prepared when it does. I believe we have a huge opportunity, unlike almost anywhere else in America. Beneath the Hornado del Muerto lies the potential to bring together 3 resources rarely found in one place: reliable geothermal energy, deep brackish water, and valuable minerals. If developed responsibly, these resources can work together in a continuous loop. Geothermal energy provides dependable 24-hour renewable power. Valuable minerals may be recovered from the geothermal fluids. Deep brackish water, once considered unusable, may be treated for industrial use while protecting our precious freshwater resources. Together, these resources create something far greater than a power plant. They created the foundation for an entirely new kind of industrial district, one powered by renewable energy and supported by resources that already exist beneath our feet. This is not simply about attracting one company or one project. It is about creating a long-term vision that allows Sierra County to become a nationwide example of responsible industrial growth. I understand why some have suggested a moratorium on future industrial development. When faced with uncertainty, delaying a decision can seem like the safest option. But a moratorium is not a strategy, it is a pause. It does not answer the question before us, it postpones them. The responsible path is not to say yes or no before we understand the opportunity. The responsible path is to do the work first. This is why I respectfully ask this commission to establish the Sierra County Resource Development Task Force. Bring together the New Mexico Bureau of Geology, New Mexico Tech, the Bureau of Lands Management, the Office of the State Engineer, scientists, engineers, private industry, local businesses, landowners, and the public. Study the geothermal resource, study the deep brackish water, study the potential for mineral recovery, study the environmental questions, and develop a long-term strategy that encourages responsible growth while protecting the values that make Sierra County special. Natural resources alone do not create prosperity. Preparation does, leadership does. The best time to prepare for this opportunity may have been years ago. The second best time is today. Let us begin the work, gather the facts, and ensure Sierra County is ready for what may become one of the greatest economic opportunities in our history.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. I've got to ask forgiveness because I can't read this signature, but it looks like Jackie something. Last four numbers of the phone are 3210.
What is the mother's maiden name and her favorite pet?
We'll go on. Terry Davis.
I didn't realize I signed up.
Speak, sorry. Thank you guys.
Probably signed the attendance log instead of the comment log. If you wish to speak, you're welcome to.
Sure, why not? My name's Terry Davis, and I would like to say regarding the AI Center that I do agree that having a better idea of sustainability would be a good idea. It would be wise. My background is geology, hydrogeology to be specific. I've worked in the field for about 40 plus years. I just recently retired. And yeah, I think having a sustainability plan would be wise at this juncture in time because we do have so many questions regarding the energy, the water, impacts of this data center. So, yeah, I think I would echo the last speaker in saying that getting research together with regards to pulling in the state engineer's office, the various scientists and community members together to talk about what is actually good for our community as opposed to, well, just taking this on blind faith that these AI centers are good for people. I think we need to step back and say, what do we want? Do we want our children to have lives where their focus is to be happy, perhaps, and know that they have the fundamentals covered in terms of water, shelter, food that is healthy for everyone? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Several people came in after this sheet was taken up from the podium out there. Is there anybody else that wishes to provide public comment? Jack Diamond? Okay, I'll do it again. I'll get you next one.
Just real quick, I'd like to see the county actually get some equipment in these creeks and get the repair that needs to be done. I think if you appointed somebody just to go out the creeks, mark where the obstruction is and fix it, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Jesse Emerson, Truth or Consequences. I want to talk about the water usage. In a medium-sized facility, which is 256,000 square feet, they use 100 million gallons of water per year. A larger facility would use 1 to 5 million gallons per day. This would increase with high temperatures. We are in global warming. We are in a desert. High heat does damage the technological tools in a data center. The AI center, the AI system uses more water than the old centers. 80% of the water that is used, it goes to evaporation, so it is lost. There is water discharge. It contains dissolved minerals, chemical treatment additives, biological contaminants. They have found the bacteria in the discharged water from data centers contains the bacteria of Legionnaire's disease. There's calcium and magnesium that's discharged, and nitrates, which increases the salt content. There's anti-scaling chemicals. There's chlorine. The water becomes heated. If it goes back into a river or to the aquifer, it is going to change the ecosystem. It's going to make a difference to the other creatures who live on this planet with us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. Next, we'll go back over here behind Ranger Hutchins.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dave Mooney. I'm running for state legislature in House District 38. It covers parts of Sierra County, Doñana County, and Socorro County. So I've had a front row seat to Project Jupiter, the proposed Green Data Center in Socorro, and now this. I've learned a lot about AI data center developers in the last year, but one thing has stood out to me. They don't want to build these to help New Mexicans or even because this is a good place to build these centers. They are here because they think they can take advantage of us. If you want to see how they keep their promises, look at Project Jupiter. They've changed their power generation plans twice in the last 10 months. They haven't been delivering on the New Mexican jobs they promised. They lied about their water use. And this is not a partisan issue. If we come together, we can absolutely stop these out-of-state corporations from taking advantage of us. I would happily team up with my opponent, Rebecca Dow, if she would join the fight against these AI data centers. This is bigger than party politics. This is not economic development. This is economic exploitation. The Commission, thank you for starting with the resolution, and I urge you to follow the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Back over here, and then we'll get the young dad. Yes, ma'am. Come ahead.
Hi. My name is Monica Miller. Thank y'all for having this meeting. What I'm curious about is who makes the decision for this ultimately? Is it gonna be y'all or is it gonna be us? Can we vote on this? Can you make it to where we have to vote on this so that everybody in the county has a say? Or is this futile? Have y'all already made up your minds? They said this has been going on, this study, or y'all been talking about it since like 2021? That's been 5 years. It sounds like it's almost a done deal and that we're coming in to go back in. We should have a vote on this. It shouldn't be just a handful of folks that have got money on their mind. We've got lives on our mind. That little baby right there, what kind of life is it gonna have in 20 years if there's no water? Or if it's polluted? And it's happening all over the country. We shouldn't let it happen to us. Thank you.
Ma'am, we don't respond to public comment, but we will address the issue next when we do this, so you'll get some answers. The man with a baby. I'm glad that you brought your child.
Hello, my name is Dawes Cochran. I'm here for something else. I'm here for the flooding problem in Las Palomas. A couple years back, the county was doing a really good job cleaning up the creeks. They came in with loaders, they came in with equipment, they did a good job. They made a big berm. It protected the farmers, it protected the homes. They stopped doing that. And now, again, we're paying a tax and we're not getting anything done. Somebody said I should plant vegetation that protects my farm. It's not gonna protect it enough. The berm is still going to jump and it's still gonna take part of my farm. I need some reassurance that I'm going to be protected. I make my living off of farming, and I am not protected. I'm losing part of my farm from flooding. I need a little bit more protection. If we can come to a resolution where I can be more protected than the rest of the canyons, that would be great. As far as this AI thing goes, I think it's ridiculous. I don't even know where this data is even going. That's the other thing, is where is all this data even going? Why are we building all these things in New Mexico? And what's to say it's not AI that's telling us to build it? Like, this is lunatic, you know, and we don't have the water. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't think we should build them at all. I think we should put more money into our tourism, into our economy, to our small businesses, something that's gonna bring more people in, not more data that's not gonna be an attraction. So that's all I'll say at that.
Thank you. Sorry for not recognizing you fellas. Anybody else? Okay. We'll get both of you.
Cheryl Ray, TRC resident. For those attached to the notion that AI data centers will be a boon in employment opportunities, I have a little story. I asked AI, what are the employment opportunities at AI data centers in the post-construction phase? I have to admit, AI was amazingly self-reflective. AI said, and these were AI's exact words, AI data centers are a job creation bust. Maybe 35, 100 if it's really big. Now, environmentally, it is impossible to conceive of a more catastrophic enterprise than an AI data center. From the noise pollution, the light pollution, to the heat, to the grotesque amounts of water needed, to the energy required. We're basically toast if we don't get real about what is involved environmentally with AI data centers. The Spaceport Master Plan claims they intend to use solar. Solar. Anybody who has attempted to power even a tiny house with solar knows how ludicrous this is. And they know it. They know it. They'll build it. The solar won't be enough, of course, and then it will be, oopsie, our bad. We're gonna have to tap into the grid after all, or get one of those cute little portable nuclear reactors. 3 minutes is not enough time to go into the environmental calamity involved in the nuclear option. At a previous meeting here, we were assured that no AI data centers were slated for Sierra County, yet now we know Spaceport is planning these. I'm certain this was not a deliberate deception, but it certainly reflects a dangerous level of naivete that we all need to address if we're going to deal in any meaningful way with these very predatory tech giants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir?
Hello. My name is Jeremy Sumner. I live in TRC. I'm not a public speaker, so I'm real nervous. I'm 55 years old. I have never been to a meeting. I'm here because I care about this. I feel like if you look at big business looking out for people, it's not there. I implore the commission to look at people before profits. There's a history. I was born and raised here, but I couldn't wait to get out of the state as an 18-year-old. I left. I lived all over the country, and I've watched business destroy communities. I've lived in communities where Dow has poisoned people. I've lived in communities where BP promised that fracking was safe, and now their water is full of chemicals that they can't drink, and they have to import their water. And these are in areas that have water and they don't have water anymore. We don't have water to play games with, so, I really just ask that you take the time and seriously look at protecting us, and I just ask for people before profits. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Last call, is there anybody else? Come ahead.
My name is Winnie Starr. I only have a question. It just came up to me and I don't have an answer, and I'm hoping that somebody here does. What is the relationship between all those, Starlinks that went flinging up out of spaceport to a data center? Are they related? Does anybody know the information about that? No? I would like to find an answer to that, because it somehow in my little brain cell, it became connected. And the spaceport's been invested in that for a long time, flinging those satellites up the Starlink set. So anyway, if anybody can report on that, I'd sure appreciate having the information about it. And that, it seems to me that if there is a connection, which I suspect there is, that's one of the reasons why the spaceport continues to support data centers. That's just my thought.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll close the public comment session and we'll move right into, resolution 2026-51. Resolution opposing development of large-scale data centers within Sierra County. I'll go to Attorney Baker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. The proposed resolution reaffirms the county's strong support for Spaceport America while expressing formal opposition to the development of data centers within the county, including at Spaceport America, due to concerns over their substantial water consumption, extraordinary electrical demands, and potential adverse impacts on groundwater, agriculture, ranching, environmental service resources, rural character, and long-term sustainability. Recognizing that the county lacks regulatory authority over development at Spaceport America, the resolution instead serves as a policy statement urging New Mexico Spaceport Authority and other state agencies to carefully evaluate the project's long-term effects, consider water-saving alternative cooling technologies, and prioritize development that protects Sierra County's finite natural resources and quality of life while preserving opportunities for sustainable economic growth. A resolution expressing opposition is generally the stronger legal and strategic approach at this stage than a moratorium, particularly where the county has not received an application subject to its jurisdiction. The principal distinction is that a resolution is a policy statement. Because it does not regulate land use or deprive anyone of any property rights, it carries with it very little legal risk. A moratorium is fundamentally different. It is a regulatory action. It temporarily prohibits or delays otherwise permissible development pending the development of local zoning regulations. Courts generally recognize that local governments may adopt temporary moratoria, generally for up to 18 months, for the purpose of developing land use regulations or zoning. This resolution helps build the legislative record. If the developer later submits an application, the county can point to the fact that these concerns were identified before any specific project was proposed. The county can then undertake studies, adopt land use regulations, adopt performance standards, and if necessary, adopt a narrowly tailored moratorium with those regulations while those regulations are being finalized. In other words, the resolution becomes the first step in a defensible planning process. A moratorium may be appropriate later if circumstances change. For example, if the county learns that one or more developers are actively assembling land, negotiating utility service, preparing applications, a temporary moratorium could be justified while comprehensive standards are developed. At that point, the county would have a much stronger factual record demonstrating why the moratorium is necessary and why its duration is reasonable. From a litigation standpoint, that sequence is considerably more defensible than beginning with a moratorium in the absence of any pending development proposal. It demonstrates the county is engaging in thoughtful planning rather than attempting to exclude a particular industry. As an aside, and as y'all are aware, my firm also represents the county of Socorro and prepared the moratorium unanimously adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of Socorro County. Socorro County, however, was facing the imminent development of a data center on land subject to the county's jurisdiction, which made an immediate moratorium the appropriate approach there. As noted, Sierra County does not yet have an application for the development of a data center subject to this board's jurisdiction. And I stand for any questions of the board on the draft resolution or otherwise.
Questions, Jim? I've got a question, Dave. question was kind of geared towards the resolution opposed to the development of a large-scale data center. What is the definition of large scale? Could we strike out the word large and just put data center?
Commissioner Hopkins, absolutely. As noted by Mr. Green earlier in the comments, it's not defined in the draft resolution. This is your proposed resolution, and it's up to the board as to how you'd like to approach that. So certainly I can take that out and resubmit your.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Who would think I'd have any questions?
Okay, next.
Thanks. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Hopkins for bringing this forward. I certainly learned a lot about our county in the last 6 or 8 weeks or so. I would obviously support the resolution. There's a couple of things that are troubling to me, and as I was sitting there trying to digest everything, the comments and stuff that was going on, we kind of end up with a pentagon of issues to me. At the top of this list to me is water. We just cannot exist without water. It's such a very important thing. We look at our ag guys, and some guys complaining about too much water every place or two. But the real point is that water for crops and all those things are the things that we have to have. In full disclosure, I was hopefully an integral part of Los Lunas' Facebook project. At the time, it made a lot of sense. It was a huge economic benefit to Los Lunas. There's no question about that. Water wasn't at the forefront of that when we developed that. The electrical side was. The cost of electricity, and I've heard a lot of concerns here today about whether or not the cost of electricity will go up. I'm not sure that would be the case. I think there's safeguards that can be put in by the utility to alleviate that. I listened to our local 411s talk about jobs and what a great, how great is that I haven't figured out how to shut my phone off, so. And obviously anybody that lives here that's had family here, needs the jobs. 411, we were together at Facebook, so we know what the importance of that was. But there's one thing so I've been a supporter of data centers. I've been a supporter of jobs. I mean, that's been everything we've done. And I've been an avid supporter of Spaceport America from the inception. Through the good times and the bad times, sat on the tax board, and we certainly do work out there as well. But I want to talk a bit about Spaceport's mission out there. This commission may remember when Spaceport advocated for a no development zone along that corridor. And I don't think most of us in this room advocated for property rights. We didn't think that a state agency should come in and do a regulatory taking, as we would call it, to take those property rights through a non-development zone. Made sense. We supported Spaceport's mission there to have a big enough area that they could do the aerospace mission that they're there for. Spaceport also enjoys the largest controlled airspace on the planet with their best partner, White Sands Missile Range. And I have to give a little bit of history here because I think this is really important for everybody to hear. When SunZia project was to come through, a project that many people have supported, it was before our commission for the environmental clearance. There was a big issue with White Sands about bringing the line across the northern boundary of White Sands. And for a reason, because it jeopardized the mission of White Sands. And I can tell you, White Sands and the military side are a huge economic driver for this county and the counties that surround it. What concerns me is that SunZia did the mitigation to alleviate White Sands and DOD's concerns. What concerns me here is that a data center at Spaceport also, in my view, and have had some conversations with DOD representatives, also jeopardizes somewhat of White Sands' mission because it becomes critical infrastructure. And critical infrastructure has certain protections that it has to have. I don't think the DOD or White Sands has weighed in on this, but I'd certainly like to hear what they have to say, because I'm not sure it couldn't jeopardize Spaceport's position. Another thing that came up here today was this whole NDA or non-disclosure issues with Spaceport, something that a lot of people did not like. I supported that, in that non-disclosure was critical to some things at Spaceport. The things that are done there are done as new technologies. They're races against corporations, arms races to our national defense. There's a lot of core missions out there that warrant NDA or non-disclosure contracts. I have to take issue with Spaceport again, and this really bothers me, because I have to take issue with this, is that we want to put a non-disclosure in place with a data center, which I think has no reason to be a non-disclosure issue. It's a corporate use, and obviously an economic driver for Spaceport. I understand the lease was somewhere around $175,000 a year. These are not numbers that I'm sure of, or numbers that I've heard, but that would, and they were wanting around 22 acres of land. Well, that's $8,000 an acre. I can go buy the whole country out there for $8,000 an acre. And it's really odd to me that we would head to a state facility to do that when there's private equity land out there that has some potential. Which makes me circle around, Commissioner Hopkins, it is very easily for a data center to be placed in that area. There are private lands out there of more than 22 acres that probably could be for sale, that could probably be bought for $8,000 per acre. So I'm really concerned that we can send letters to cabinet and to a governor and a land commissioner who are all not gonna have jobs January 1. So I'm not sure that what we're doing here just with a please don't look at it, or please hold off on it letter to those officials is necessarily something that works well for our position. And so, Attorney Pato, I understand, and I think I share your issue with the regulatory taking. That was the first thing I said is, look, are we doing a regulatory taking? We're asking to do something that we have no jurisdictional authority over. This county doesn't have a single zoning ordinance. And we're really vulnerable to these kind of things. Very vulnerable to this kind of technology and the depletion of a water supply. And I think that it's pretty obvious that there's a geothermal supply out there that's very big. BLM just led a contract, I believe, for exploration of geothermal waters in that area, is my understanding. So we know something's in the mix out there. And I want to go on much longer about this, but this is a real dilemma for me. It's jobs, it's where our kids go. It's the future of the county. It may be the future of our country, but more importantly, it's a potential depletion of our water. That is the issue to Sandy, is how do we ensure that our water is protected? Because we are nothing without it. So with that, Commissioner Hopkins, I would like to see if there's any way that we could consider doing exactly what you've said, but put a 6-month or 8-month or some kind of a restriction in case it bleeds over into private lands. I'm concerned with Doñana County's has an industrial park that's sitting right on our county line. You know, I don't know what their intentions are, but that's all our water. That's the things that we did, and you know, EBID's got 2 inches of water this year, or 4. Anything that's like that can really be tough on our ag community. So I don't wanna belabor this much more, but I would, Commissioner, if you would entertain, or if we could certainly look at, maybe some kind of an insistent that the county get some further, direction on this. I certainly don't know anything much about it. There's probably people in that crowd out there that know a lot more than I do about it, but I think that in order to protect our citizens in the way that we're obligated to do, I think that we need to have some kind of information, some kind of study, what that would be and how that would look, I don't know. And I think that we need to develop that. I think to be responsible commissioners, we need to develop that. So is that a 6-month moratorium until we can engage a study? Is that a 3-month, a 1 month, or is it something like that? What could be crafted to do that? And with that, I'm gonna be quiet.
Thank you. I want to share something with the public out there. You know, my phone number and my email, as are the other commissioners, are public, and you pick up a card, you can call me, text me, or email me. At the last commission meeting, I told you that we are transparent, that if there was a proposal that came before this commission, we would share that publicly. I'm quite amazed at some of the texts and emails that I've gotten that have accused us of lining our pockets with smoke-filled backroom decisions that we've already made for the proposal that's already been approved. It's just astounding. This commission is transparent. It's great that Commissioner Vaughn actually happened to peruse the Spaceport 2025 development plan and find that there was a 50-acre data center plan in there in concept. I told you at the last commission meeting that we had no proposals before this commission. That's the absolute truth. We still today do not have a proposal that has come before the commission. I talked to Spaceport Authority Chief Executive Officer this morning before I came here. He told me they are developing concepts and they have some interested parties, and yes, Green Data is one who is interested in getting a larger facility there, but these are preliminary discussions and based on concepts. Attorney Pato has stated, and so has Commissioner Jones, that we have no authority over decision or denial for a data center at Spaceport. That's up to the Spaceport Authority Board and the State Land Commissioner and ultimately the governor. We don't have that authority in Sierra County. They're on 18,000 acres of state land, and we coordinate with them. What this resolution does, and their CEO, McLaughlin, recognized that the county, in representing our citizens and our natural resources, must have a hand in the discussion and being able to comment on any plans that Spaceport comes up with for data centers and other things before they happen. And he agreed with that. If this resolution passes, it will be sent to everybody in New Mexico, basically, as well as the news media that's here today. So I just want to remind our citizens that we are here. I've been here since 1988. I have 9 grandchildren. One of them works in Sierra County. 5 of them are out of state because they had to go where they could find a job and make a living. I would love to have all 9 of them close because I just last month had my 10th great grandchild, but they're scattered in 4 states. So in order for my wife to see them, we have to get in the RV and travel, which isn't a bad deal, but it would be so much nicer to have them close to home. That's what we want, is the opportunity for our kids to stay here if they wish, and to develop and to live and to be part of this community and have our families together. This commission is committed to you, the citizens, to doing the very best job that we can to provide safety and security and the pursuit of happiness and the ability to make a living and stay here. We'll continue to do that. I really appreciate every one of you coming today, those of you who spoke and those of you who just supported. This is how good governance works, and we're glad to participate with you. So with that, there was a discussion by Mr. Jones of an amendment to the resolution. Is there any willingness to pursue that? Mr. Hopkins?
Most definitely, and I just want to be clear with the residents of Sierra County. I consider myself a lifelong resident, even though I was out of pocket for 15 years in Las Cruces, going to school and doing other things. But my family's been here for 3 generations. I strongly oppose data centers. I think this resolution is a good first step, and I would gladly support a moratorium for 18 months or however long we can do it. And if it expires, could we resubmit after the 18 months?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hopkins, the courts are clear that they give you a finite period of time because you are impacting on private property. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So the courts give you a finite amount of time with this moratorium because it doesn't impact property rights. It's a regulatory taking, like Commissioner Jones mentioned. And the purpose of that moratorium isn't just to say, we're not doing development here in Sierra County. We can't do that. What we can do though is we're going to take that 18 months to study the impacts on groundwater, to study and so I think what I would propose is I have 2 paragraphs that I prepared after Commissioner Jones' statements that I'd like to share with you all and see if that's something that you'd like to go down that path. And then at the next meeting, what I would suspect is that we would budget money so that a study can be conducted into those matters. And then we would develop some sort of regulations based on that study, and that would be the approach that we go down. So the recital that I propose to add, if you'd like to add that moratorium, would be that the Board of County Commissioners finds that additional time is necessary to fully evaluate the potential long-term impacts of large scale of data center development upon Sierra County, including projected water consumption, electrical demands, impacts on groundwater resources, agriculture, ranching, environmental quality, infrastructure, emergency services, rural character, and the overall long-term sustainability of the county's natural resources and economy. And then so that would be one recital that would be added. And then finally, for now therefore be it resolved, the substance of the resolution, that the Board of County Commissioners hereby declares its intent to impose an 18-month moratorium on the approval or support of data center development within Sierra County to the extent permitted by law, to allow the county sufficient time to conduct or obtain comprehensive studies regarding long-term impacts of such facilities, including water consumption, electrical demand, groundwater sustainability, agricultural and ranching impacts, environmental effects, infrastructure capacity, emergency services, alternative cooling technologies, economic impacts, and compatibility with the county's rural character and long-term planning objectives, and to consider whether additional ordinances, regulations, or policies are necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. So those are the 2 additional paragraphs if you'd like to impose a moratorium. One provides the foundation, the recital, which was based largely on the comments we've heard here today. And then there's that functional portion, which is imposing that moratorium, if that's what the board would like. Again, my concern of imposing a moratorium at this point is I was afraid we were shooting our shot too early. I think that you have a fixed amount of time that you can hold something up, and that's recognized by the courts for 18 months, right? I mean, and it'd be better if you waited 24 months for someone to come forward, and you put that additional 18-month moratorium on, and what it does is, in essence, time kills projects. And we've seen that time and time again. By doing this, you're taking that bullet out of your gun, and we're just moving forward with the moratorium. So, again, it's completely this board's prerogative how to move forward. That was my thought process as to why we proposed moratorium in Socorro County, which was facing an imminent data center development, and why I did not propose that here.
Two questions, Attorney Peto. That's any land in Sierra County, is it not?
It's not gonna be state land, so.
Any private lands?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then, my understanding is we can do a resolution now until there's a proposal that's made, and then if we choose to enact a moratorium, we could at that time.
Mr. Chairman, that's this board's prerogative. I've heard from Commissioner Jones here and Commissioner Hopkins, though, that they would like to have a moratorium in place, and that's why I proposed that additional language.
My only concern is with what you said, if we don't wanna shoot our only bullet too early. If we put a moratorium in place, it's only good for 18 months, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And we don't know if it can be renewed or extended, or?
We would have considerable challenges renewing it at that point, yes.
Mr. Chairman, Attorney Peto, there is, and I recognize those concerns because those are real. And again, this regulatory taking, it's a path you better be careful with. However, I'm kind of convinced that the state legislature is gonna look at this pretty hard. There's already a lot of talk about what New Mexico is gonna look at for these data centers. And if they do that, if we fire our shot now and significantly let the state legislature know that, hey, we are concerned here, it carries a bit more weight than just a letter to 6 people who are gonna be out of office in 6 or 7 months, including maybe me, so. But I always said I was a future ex-county commissioner. So, but the point is that I think the legislature is gonna take this on. What my concern is a rush to an agreement before that happens. And that's what I would like to see is, all right, guys, we're out here. There's some pushback here, and we wanna know what it is. And if the legislature takes it up and says, look, guys, these are the guidelines that we're gonna have, that's the guidelines we're gonna have. And that will affect state land and private land, obviously. And the one that we don't have is the federal land, right? The BLM stuff. And so there may be some push there, who knows? But that'd be my only comment and response to why we might ought to go ahead and do it. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, and doing the 18-month moratorium would not only get you through this next session, which is a short session, but would also get you into the following long session. So I think you should have enough, there would be 2 opportunities in the next 2 years.
Can't hear what you're saying.
Mr. Chairman, I said that if this moratorium were adopted today, it would get you through both this short session coming up this January and the following 60-day session the following year if it's not taken up or put on the governor's call this coming session. So it gives you plenty of time as well.
What's in your court?
Well, we've got the information. The motion ought to be pretty involved. Mr. Hopkins, this was your horse you rode in on.
Yes.
So, you wanna make a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the resolution and the moratorium for 18 months.
There's 2 paragraphs that were added by
Yes,
the
sir.
attorney.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Teresa, I'd like you to do a roll call vote so we can demonstrate our votes to the public.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Paxson?
Action?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jones?
Yes.
Sorry. Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Okay, that motion is approved. We will post that and we will have it available for you. It will be sent to just about every office in New Mexico up to the governor, as well as our federal contingent. Thank you. This has been quite a time. We will take about a 5-minute recess, and you who have other business to take care of, we will continue on from that point. Thank you, each and every one.
Thank you.
Just scared
How
about
was
that.
lunch? How was lunch, by the way?
Okay, now we're back to order. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Chairman, I move we, approve the consent agenda today. A through E.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved. Presentations and reports. Years of Service Awards, Manager Ball.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. We have a couple today. First on the list in the Assessor's Office with 6 years of service is Chelsea Garcia. She left. But thank you, Chelsea. Next, in the Sheriff's Department with 4 years of service, Zach Zavala.
He was just here, I don't know where he
They all ran away.
He had his phone in his hand when he went out.
He's probably in the bathroom.
I'll give it to him when he walks back in. Okay, next in our GWI office with 2 years is Mary Castillo. Next, also in GWI with 14 years of service is Sandra Lucero. She's off today, 14 years. And last but not least, in the admin department with 25 years of service is Keith Pitcher.
Can you sing like Keith Whitley?
I don't even think he's that old.
Appreciate your work.
You go to work when you were 3.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioner, that is all.
All right. We'll, see if we still have some folks here for department reports. Is Ernie back there in the back? Shane, come on up.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've been keeping up with the ball field, excellent, maybe once a week, maybe every other week. We're in the process right now of building a cage for a generator for the array transfer station, so we can get the new split up and running. We also installed 2 of the other new splits in both other transfer stations. And they're all working up hard, so we have the problem. But other than that, keeping up with weeds, and staying fresh.
Thank you, Shane. The array ball field looks great. Such an asset. How about Ryan?
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Manager Vaughn. All fire departments and EMS agencies were continuing our annual compliance testing. It kind of runs from the end of the fiscal into the new fiscal year. So that's a lot of motion pumps, ladders, apparatus, air packs, all across the board. Let's see, the State Fire Marshal's Office Fire Protection Fund grant window just opened up. The deadline is August 31st. We have multiple departments that are putting in for water storage, apparatus, and some building maintenance and repairs. Let's see, we just got awarded a $30,000 grant to improve and update and revise our community wildland protection plans. We're going to identify a contractor, source them out, and we'll go with that process. That's a really good plan to have. It's been over 5 years since we updated it. But we've identified a few folks that will help out with that process. And then I'm happy to say all participating jurisdictions within the county have adopted a resolution for the hazard mitigation plan. FEMA approved it. Everyone, we're good. We're down in publication distribution, and then I'm doing a closeout for all the grants at this time, which included a lot of in-kind services and direct spending. So I'm really happy to know that 2.5-year project is going to be complete. Other than that, we're just monitoring the weather. Forest Service looked at their state and fire restrictions yesterday, and that's on the heel of just because they received some pretty adequate precipitation along the CDT and the west side of the CDT. But we're going to monitor it and just kind of keep seeing, make sure we get some more precipitation throughout the county because it's been pretty isolated in certain areas. So we want to ensure that we're reducing the risk to our residents, and then we'll just kind of go from there. But that ends my report. I'll stand for any questions.
Can I shoot my fireworks?
Did you stockpile some, sir?
I I have some.
Not yet. That's under the current, you know, the state hasn't lifted.
Got to wait till next year.
Who is that guy? No, sir. Any other questions?
I've only got one measurable precip. My house on Beater Street. I got a 1/10 of an inch day before yesterday. So it's still
It's
pretty.
pretty isolated, and then in the areas that have received it, the fuel moisture contents, it just gets sapped out of it so quick, so, you know, and I've noticed it too, you look on the radar, and like, wow, let's use the, for example, Hardy Creek, getting a lot of moisture. Nope, well dry. District Ranger Milano were just talking about that. Everything on the west side of the Continental Divide is receiving pretty good moisture. On the east side, it builds, it breaks, and it takes off. Dusty got some good stuff Saturday. Between Winston and Poverty on the 52 received very isolated pocket, but caused pretty significant flood damage on 52, so DOT's been working heavily, but Lomas, I mean, as Commissioner Jones knows, sometimes it rains on the west side of I-25, and not on the east side of I-25, so it's just, it's pretty.
I've had about 4 inches at my place.
Is that a, truthfully? That's not a small color leaking on your roof, sir.
I just want to shoot my fireworks.
Yeah, well, we'll monitor the situation and go from there. We just, as NWS, National Weather Service said, the forecast is late June, super El Nino. Got pushed to late July, super El Nino. I just sat through some more meetings last week. Winter storm, super El Nino, so it just keeps getting pushed out, pushed out, pushed out. But we'll see, fingers crossed, we will see something in the next while.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you all.
Sheriff.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, not a whole lot to report on. A few things, I got a couple other contracts up later, so I'll keep it kind of brief. Just to keep everybody in the loop, I did complete a critical incident plan for our schools. I currently have that out to all the vested parties, that's fire, EMS, EMO, the school district, dispatch, law enforcement, to review that. Once we have it finalized, we'll implement that. Currently, we're looking at that being about a 300-page document, but it encompasses just about everything. And talking with Brian, our plan is to take that model and then adopt that for other critical incident planning. So that's been a big project, but we've got that coming hopefully to the end here pretty quick. As some of you are aware, we ran into some law enforcement protection fund issues with the expenditures that DFA threw on us last year. We wound up mitigating most of those on our side. I am working with our legislative representation on some legislative changes to fix that problem in the upcoming 60-day session. Whether that'll happen or not, we don't know, so I'm planning as if we're gonna have those same restrictions this year and having those funds expended before June 30th and our equipment received. I've got the New Mexico Executive Board meeting coming up here at the beginning of next month, so I would encourage if any of you have any issues that you want brought up, please shoot those to me as I get up there and I find out what the legislative priorities and things are gonna be. I'll shoot out an email with all that information to all the elected officials. Also have the New Mexico Sheriff's Conference coming up. That's where we'll set our legislative priorities, and if I get any information that leads over to other departments, I'll share that as well when I get back. We're finally coming on live with the Peregrine data sharing and analytical program. We're training on that next week, so we'll be fully live with all that data starting next week. Pretty happy about that. We have our final open position. We interviewed for it. We're working on backgrounds right now to fill that position hopefully by the end of the month. And I'm also working on a petition to become a highly designated county. I got the groundwork laid for what that process looks like. I've got to have it in by August 28th.
What is high, Sheriff?
High intensity drug trafficking area. So it basically will give us designation. Everybody except for us in Socorro County on the I-25 corridor are highly designated county. So I don't know how that wound up happening, but it did. And it's quite the process. It's got to go to Washington D.C. It's got to be approved over there. I've got to have that in by August 28th. I'm working on that now. And it may take us a couple of years of petitioning to
We've had a pretty busy month trying to keep up with all the rating and all of our districts. Been pretty short-handed and been using a lot of the blade hands to help out with our LCRF projects, chip sealing and pop sealing. We've also had a blade broke down for most of the month. We just got it going again last week. Had some emissions issues on it, but we got it going. We completed all our chip seal projects using our LGRF, with the exception of striping, and we will be getting them done here soon. The road crew is now fully staffed again. And like I said, been getting a lot of help from the blade guys to complete the LGRF projects. They also completed a much needed low water crossing in Animas Creek with a concrete slab and a culvert. We started a new water crossing in Percha yesterday. Josh and I have started to review a professional engineering services proposal from Henry Houston for some drainage improvements on Arabian Lane and Greer Street out in Lakeshore Highlands. We're hoping to possibly go after some TPF money on that, for the funding on that project. Also like to thank Ernie and his crew for installing the new split unit ACs out in the transfer stations. Always do good work. Those split units will be heating and cooling, so be pretty nice with that out there. And I'll stand for any questions.
Questions, Jim? Thank you. Is Mickey still in here? No, she's not. Okay. Patrick?
Chairman, Commissioners, Manager Vaughn. The facility operations continues to operate normally, with no significant issues to report. Staff has adapted well to the current operational schedule, and daily operations remain stable. Our current population at Luna's 48, and that's been consistent with the last 4 months in the mid to high 40s. Staffing, we are down 1 officer. We have a vacancy. The recruitment process is underway. We will start interviews shortly, and we'll get that position filled as quickly as possible. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Questions for Patrick? Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Andrew Vaughn?
Thank you, Chair and Commission. I do have one. I just want to let everybody know that we will be doing the public input meetings August 4th, 5th, and 6th for the resource management plan. There will be invitations being sent out. On the 4th, we'll be doing it in Hillsborough in the evening in Array. On the 5th, we'll be going out to Winston, and then on the 6th, we'll be having it here in the Commission chambers. And those will be in the evening so that people can attend when they go to work. That's all I have, and I'll stand for any questions.
I hope the commissioners will be able to make those. I plan to, RMP process, resource management plan process is moving right along, so that's a good job. Commissioners, do you have anything to report for the group? Jones? No. Attorney Pato?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll move on.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I might, just one quick item.
Okay, Mr. Pato.
I apologize. I simply wanted to note to the board that I did reach out to DFA General Counsel regarding our concerns, or regarding concerns about the LEPF funding and it rollover. I've not yet heard a response, so I will follow up and see if I can secure a response from the state on that.
Thank you for making that contact, David. We'll go to Board of Finance, the June 2026 reconciliation. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the June 2026 reconciliation.
And I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. That motion passes. Go to old business, contract between Sierra County and TRC Municipal Schools for the school resource officer position. Sheriff? 3.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, y'all should have the renewed contract. We took the concerns that Attorney Pato had from the last one, we got those addressed. He's reviewed it, I reviewed it. It was actually approved at the school board meeting earlier this week or last week by the school board. And I would ask that you approve the contract. I stand for any questions y'all may have.
Mr. Chairman, I just move approval of it.
A second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes.
Thank you.
You owe me one, Judge.
Okay, we'll go on to new business. Road closure request for New Mexico Spaceport Authority. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we are asking again for blanket approval for August. A couple of the missions that we have scheduled may be rescheduled by White Sands. Additionally, one of the road closures may no longer impact AO 13 and keeps going back and forth with White Sands. So we're just asking for some flexibility to be able to execute those missions.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of that as well.
A second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That motion passes. Contracts, agreements, and procurements, we are tabling item A. We'll move to item B. MOU between Sierra County and Sierra County Regional Dispatch Authority for Human Resources Services. Manager Vaughn.
Thank you, Chair, Commission. So this is an item that has been approved by the SCRTA Board. During the annual review process this year, it was determined that SCRTA needed some assistance with HR. We currently are their fiscal agent and we do all of their books, but we did have a gap in that agreement for HR services. It was brought to our attention that the current employees in SCRTA didn't have any place to go HR-wise. They were just a director and an assistant director. So we had proposed for $5,000 to have the following services: personnel policy interpretation and guidance, recruitment and hiring assistance, employee onboarding and personnel records administration, benefits support, classification and compensation guidance, employee relations assistance, performance management guidance, assistance with disciplinary actions and investigations, human resource training and consultation, and guidance regarding compliance with applicable federal, state, and local employment laws and regulations. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions, gentlemen?
Of course I do.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, I guess the only thing that concerns me, and I just going back to this, liability mitigation, what, does that let us get sued?
Commissioner Jones, I'll let Attorney Pato handle that question.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jones. Yes, we could be sued for our actions in relation to this MOU, and they could be sued for their actions in relation to the MOU. So if they make a determination they want to terminate someone, that decision's on them. We're simply doing the administrative work and processing those actions. So if we make a mistake in our administration of their personnel matters, then yes, we could be sued.
And we could see that.
What was that?
And we could see that.
Well, this doesn't provide for us being able to sue them or for them to be able to sue us. I mean, really what it does is that if we made a mistake and we injured one of their employees, for instance, we didn't calculate their PURA or we didn't take out PURA, then yes, there's potential that we may end up on the hook for making that PURA payment that wasn't paid, or the same with taxes. But if SCRTA goes through the termination process, let's say they terminate somebody, certainly we could be named as a party as it relates to termination, but we're only responsible for our actions in relation to that termination. So wrongful termination, those sorts of things, retaliatory discharge, given that they're the ones that are going to be making that threshold determination to terminate, we would say that's on you, that's not us, we didn't make that decision. But I think the greater likelihood for exposure relates to challenges or problems as it relates to pure withholding, tax withholding, those sorts of things.
Well, the issue I have is that every time someone gets terminated and they don't like it, the lawsuit comes, there's, I think, 6 or 7 more attorneys out there that would just like to sue, and I worry about that, doing that for a third party, accepting any kind of liability. can tell you I'm not for this, I probably gonna go along with it, but it's with a lot of caution.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jones, because I shared that caution, we did incorporate in the liability and community section of this draft MOU a provision that SCRTA acknowledges and agrees that all employment decisions affecting SCRTA personnel, including but not limited to hiring, promotion, discipline, compensation, evaluation, reassignment, termination, workplace investigations, employee relations matters, and compliance with employment laws remain solely within the authority and responsibility of SCRTA. So we tried to keep that mostly on their end, but again, as I acknowledged, we do have exposure in this process.
So let me take it one more step further, this is the one that you're not gonna like.
What's that?
Who is their attorney?
Not me.
Well, you might be representing them in a claim. You'll be representing the county commission.
I would represent the Board of County Commissioners, that's correct.
Right, and so I just wanna make it abundantly clear to SCRTA that you're not their attorney.
Yes, thank you.
You and I have had that problem.
Yes,
before.
thank you.
And I'm not the only one, and so, and not as a got you there, but I think that a lot of times people think, oh, well, the county attorney says it's good. But when the skinning comes along, you're not their attorney, and I think that they need to understand that fully well. Do you understand that fully well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I also think that SCRTA or even the county, when we get ready to terminate an employee, I mean, you've got the documentation to prove negligence or whatever, so I think that would help us keep out a lawsuit as well, so. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to approve the MOU between Sierra County and Sierra County Regional Dispatch Authorities for the HR services.
Second, reluctantly.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. That motion passes. Thank you. I recognize, and I think that Mickey does too, that this is administrative services support only. And that SCRTA is still SCRTA and they're independent of the county. We're just a member. So we'll move forward. Item C is work and financial plan between Sierra County and Emerald Plant Health Inspection Service Wildlife Services. This is a standard annual contract that we do every year. I don't think it's changed any, has it, Barbara? It's $45,000, it was that last year, last couple of years.
It's actually 47.5, but it's been that way for a couple of years, yes.
They do a world of good for us, and Ray is available, Ray Pierce is available night and day with any kind of need, he's responding. He's also been helping out as a wolf depredation investigator, and he's done pretty much all of the investigations in the southern San Mateos and along the Continental Divide and down to Palomas Creek and. Yep, he does good work.
He does.
So,
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to move that for approval?
you bet.
I move so moved.
I second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ray's not here this morning because he's busy. Thank you. That motion is approved. We'll go to item D, agreement between County of Sierra and City of Truth or Consequences regarding the administration and enforcement of the city's floodplain management regulations. Ms. Bincombe.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Yes, the Administration Department requests approval of an agreement for floodplain management services between Sierra County and the City of Truth and Consequences. The last agreement we entered into with the City of Truth and Consequences was in 2022, was when it was executed. That contract laid out all the obligations of both parties and set the compensation at $5,000 annually to be paid to Sierra County for these services rendered. Both parties would like to enter into a new agreement that would expire on June 30th, 2030, so a new 4-year agreement. And with that, staff, are any questions? And we appreciate your consideration of the approval of this agreement.
Questions or comments, Disney? Yes, ma'am.
So read through this a little bit, and the title concerns me as much as anything. It says, regarding the administration and enforcement of the city's floodplain management regulations. I don't think that our floodplain manager is an enforcer of regulations. I think that their job is simple. They identify whether or not a property is in a flood zone or not. They can make some recommendation, but, so I have two issues with this. I think the contract needs to be clear that our floodplain manager determines that's exactly in state law, that they determine whether or not a property's in the flood zone or not. If there's a question, it's required for a New Mexico registered land surveyor to issue a certificate of elevation. And my concern is that we get too far down into the weeds and making recommendations and things that I think that are litigious. The second concern I have is that I really have heartburn with Sierra County floodplain manager having a fee attached to doing work that, I mean, Tier C is obviously in the county. So I like the fact that we're providing that service for the different municipalities, but I guess I'm just against the fee. We have him, he's in an office, it's his job, and I just wouldn't recommend attaching a fee to the municipality. I mean, the assessor assesses property in Tier C. As far as I know, we don't charge Tier C a price for the assessor. And we don't charge for the sheriff to respond to a call in Tier C. Or any of those other things. So that's my concern here. And I'll tell you, I really won't support this with the fee attached to it. And I wanna make sure that we're not enforcing someone else's regulations. I think the city is fully capable of enforcing their own regulations as they see fit. And I think there was something else in here that it was kind of like, we'll go over there if it's convenient for us to, if we have an obligation to the county first. If we're gonna have this, then they ought to be at the same call as, I don't think there's a time where you'd be too busy to take care of that work over there. So that's my comments. I would entertain any change to it. If without changes, I wouldn't support it.
Where did you see that he would charge a fee?
That's not under number five.
$5,000, I think.
That's the agreement, that's not a fee.
I understand that, but I don't know why we would charge them anything for it. I mean, the city of Tier C pays taxes to the county. The city of Elephant View pays taxes to the county. The city of Williamsburg. We don't, for $5,000, they can go get their own person to do it. It's not, I mean, getting the floodplain certification is not a Harvard degree. It's a matter of sending somebody to 3 days of school and get it. We've all had them. I've had them. There's several there, and I just don't think, I think that if we're serious about cooperating with our communities, I mean, I've heard that the other day about how we're cooperating with each other. I don't know why we're attaching a fee to this stuff. Whether they have 1 or 20 or whatever it is, if he comes to the county, we normally pay that fee, I think, as an individual. I don't think that service is free to us. Might be. So that would be to get my support, we'd have to get rid of the fee and ensure that we're not enforcing somebody else's regulation. That's, Manager Whitehead's here, and I don't know if he wants us enforcing his regulations. Kind of help us get along a little bit better. That's all I got to say, so. All's in good court.
we do routinely, assistance from other entities within the county for services? Is this pretty standard?
Yes, it is pretty standard. We have an agreement that'll be coming next month with Elephant Butte for a fee.
Well, I have a $5,000 fee.
Theirs will be a little less because they have a smaller community. We were charging $25 per permit, and then we decided to go to a flat fee to avoid some more administration and a little more work. So we went to a flat fee based on an average over the last couple of years.
Mr. Chairman, let's talk about Elephant View for a minute. In my job as flood commissioner, there's issues all over Elephant View. To my knowledge, I haven't seen a new house built that had the floodplain requirements installed. And those all require not adding to the delta of the runoff. The law of the land is you accept runoff where it's historically adhered to your property, and it exit where it historically exited, and you cannot contribute to the delta. So when you build a house, obviously part of that permeable soil goes away and it becomes runoff, and that's why you see all these little ponding areas set up around commercial buildings and stuff. It gets enforced a bit with the commercial, but not with the residential. And as my understanding, we've been issuing those floodplain issues or enforcement actions, whatever those are, and those things aren't followed through with. It is a terrible issue in Elephant View, the flooding and the work that people just keep doing and pushing water off onto their neighbor. I believe that it's the number one complaint for code enforcement in Elephant View. We're certainly building a project right now out there. It's building a project where a commercial boat storage place is dumping all of their water off onto a small neighborhood. And for the life of me, I don't understand why people haven't sued, and I don't understand why the city of Elephant View sits on their hands and not doing something about it, because they are harming people there. And so we're trying to mitigate that with flood commission money. So that's my point. I don't think we're adequately doing it, or if it isn't us, the municipalities aren't adequately doing it. Does that make sense? And it just puts us in a mix of, well, the floodplain guy said it was okay, and it may not be. So I think we either step it up and enforce it and have some teeth in it, or it's just like so many other ordinances that we have. We just kind of let it happen, and we feel good about passing an ordinance. So that's where I'm at. Again, I'm done with this, but under this current, I wouldn't support it.
Well, I don't see reading this, and I read it last night, and I don't see where there's any enforcement authorized by the floodplain administrator. It says he'll identify issues.
It's in the title. Agreement between County of Sierra and the City of To The Consequences regarding the administration and enforcement of the city's floodplain management regulations. It's in the title. If I read it, I'd say, oh yeah, I know who enforces these rules.
Well, purpose and scope of services is not in there.
Maybe we'll just change the title. I don't know.
Are you able to do that, Attorney Payton?
Of course.
And again, with the fee in it, I'm not gonna support it anyway, so you can leave it however you want it.
Well, we want it to be as correct as it can be.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand.
It's not how I want anything.
Well, okay, well,
Yeah.
it is our ones. We're the commission that we want the regulation to read like this. We have 3 opinions here, and that's fine.
Well, this is to provide services to the city that they don't have. Are you gonna send a person from Tier C to school to be a floodplain manager if we don't approve this?
Asking a question, can you come up?
Yes, sir, please do. And along with that, is the $5,000 fee agreeable to you to get services rendered? Thank you, Manager Whitehead, for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's been a fun meeting for me today. It's been a beautiful all of you.
Because you're a spectator.
Let me back up just a minute, and just as yesterday evening after 5 o'clock, I received several phone calls from some commissioners discussing access to water in this building today. And glad that we were able to work that out. And Mr. Jones brought some of his concerns up about this particular issue. I want to start at the top. You do lots of things, and my current zoning individual came to me and said, I have a problem, our current floodplain management agreement has expired, we don't have anybody to do that. And I said, tell me why is it expiring, was my first concern, right? We're government to government agencies, the contract should just be, consistent, and we should be having that. I was personally unaware, I had not read the document, I was unaware that we were being charged a fee of $5,000. So I did take the time this morning to come back and visit as to what's the history of this, why is the city doing this, and why don't we have our own floodplain manager? Again, the fee does seem to be a little bit high for that services. Potentially I could send a staff member and we could perform those services. Further, Mr. Jones pointed out that the contract did talk about our ability for the floodplain manager to have some oversight. So I spoke with our staff again this morning to say, what oversight does the floodplain manager have? And to date, the floodplain manager has provided no regulatory authority inside the boundaries of Truth or Consequences. I brought the form because the first step that has to happen, and this is where Mr. Jones and I absolutely agree, the floodplain manager's responsibility is to certify whether or not a property is inside the floodplain. And then the only trigger to that would be, is it in a zone or a B zone? And then if it is in a floodplain, be able to report to our agency that the construction must meet these certain base elevation standards. And so he and I both agree that would be the services that we would be asking for. Where the fee becomes a little challenge for me is, what happens in our process currently is if a citizen comes in and says, we're going to build a new home, what do we do to get a permit? We say to them, you have to go to the New Mexico Regulatory Authority to get your permit, and that permit requires a signature from the City of Truth or Consequences that the applicant has met all the required zoning ordinances and requirements, and it has an independent signature from the floodplain. We are sending the citizens to the floodplain manager so that the floodplain manager can sign off on this document, so that when the citizen sends it in to the New Mexico Regulatory Authority to get their building permit, it has both the city signature that says they comply and the floodplain managers to say they comply. So there's really not been any meeting of the minds, if you will, or regulatory positioning or additional work. We also use in the city, because we don't have a building inspector, we use Stantec Engineering to review all the plans so that anyone that comes in gets an independent review of the zoning ordinance. So it's not arbitrary to say, well, Gary got to review that one and Tracy reviewed that one. They go, our engineer then writes us a report and says the applicant complies with all requirements, and then you do need to see the floodplain, or if there's a property that was developed that had a potential flood issue, our engineer would say, you should potentially meet with somebody to talk about this, or ask the applicant to provide some engineering. So I guess in the gist of it, it doesn't feel like you're providing us any service, because the service belongs to the citizen. The citizen cannot get a building permit from the state of New Mexico in Sierra County, including the City of Truth or Consequences, without being signed off by the floodplain manager. The floodplain manager, whether they work for the city or the county, has an obligation to uphold whatever the regulation is that they've taken on by now saying, I want to be a floodplain manager. So I would say to you today, Mr. Chairman, we are not opposed to the fee. We came in just to get the contract put back in place so that citizens in TRC could go get their applications to move forward. I would say we would probably need to review it a little more. Would be very supportive of a title change, just to make sure that all that we're getting from this county is true floodplain management in its truest, simplest form, and it's a service to the citizen, really not a service to the city. And then ultimately, we might come back and look at this $5,000 when I decide whether or not I need to provide our own service if it was necessary, so.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it sounds like we need something in place immediately. That's what I'm hearing from, Mr. Whitehead, and if you could confirm or deny Mr. Whitehead, I'd appreciate that.
Say that again?
If you would, my understanding is that we need something in place immediately because our last agreement had expired, is that correct?
I would concur with you. At this point, with not having as much information as I possibly should, I would say, yes, we should if we could put the agreement back into place for some 60-day period of time, as is, with the title change, we would be acceptable to that.
Sounds good. And Mr. Chairman, it's completely at this board's discretion whether or not you impose a charge or you don't impose a charge. I mean, we can remove that, we can leave that in for 60 days, however you'd like to do that. I can reflect that in the draft agreement. That's time for any questions from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question to the
Please.
attorney. Under your reading of the law, would it not be true that any floodplain manager could sign off? If I still had my CFM.
Absolutely. Any
I could
CFM
go in and that person could just use me, right?
Yes, apart from the delegation. So since they'd be delegating pursuant to this agreement, that the county would be doing that, unless they made an alternate or additional delegation. Yes, that is correct. That
So-
any CFM can sign off on that form.
Right, so it's not some kind of captive deal. Anybody could come along and they're state certified. Somebody from Taos could come down here and sign off on that as a floodplain manager.
Provided the city delegates that authority to them to do that, yes.
Not necessarily, it's a construction industries requirement. They have a floodplain ordinance that has to be followed. Any CFM can come in and I could make that case, that, hey, I'm signing off on this because the county guy was on vacation in Montana. And I'd walk in there and sign off on it and it would satisfy construction industries. My opinion, now I'm not.
Mr. Chairman,
Do you remember I'm not an attorney?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Jones, I couldn't tell you what their floodplain ordinance requires. If their floodplain ordinance says it needs to be someone at the county that signs off on it, then it needs to be someone at the county that signs off on it. But I agree with you in theory that I don't believe CID requires that it be a county CFM that signs off on it. My understanding is similar to yours, that any CFM should be able to sign off on this, provided they were delegated that authority by the city.
Mr. Chairman, I would concur. Those of us in this room, we end up in situations that we don't always look for, right? In this particular case, the City of Truth and Consequences had a building inspector, probably managed it, probably had a floodplain manager, had all the tools in the toolbox. Then CID changes their perception and says, if you're gonna be a municipal building inspector, you have to have these certifications. Took it to a different level. So the city, small municipalities like ourselves, end up in no choice of their own, but say, well, we can't afford to do that, or we're not gonna get someone to be able to do that. So now we don't have that particular service, which then puts us in a little bit of a pickle, right? Where now we're dealing with this floodplain, which in fairness, that is the only form, right? It does require it, and so if the county has a floodplain manager, it doesn't even need to be within my ordinance, right? You have a floodplain manager, he or she needs to sign off. However, in the spirit of cooperation, I would think the right decision would be for us to keep the agreement intact and go for it, actually let it go for a year, because the $5,000 is attached for an annual contract. The contract has a 30-day out. So once we meet with our attorneys, we figure this out, we go through it, we could terminate the contract and pay for the services that we paid for within that and potentially get a refund. But it may be a service that we don't need. I also have not looked into our zoning ordinance. I may have a requirement in the city zoning that says I need to also see a certification from a floodplain manager in my record. So then it's not just for the citizen, now it's for the municipality, and I don't have that information today. So I'm here to tell you, I don't have all the answers, just need an extension, was hoping to do it long term, but I do support Mr. Jones, and I think a very healthy conversation, and I would agree with him. I don't want somebody coming into the city and providing some kind of guidance about a flood and how we should handle floodplains and where people should move water. I simply need base flood elevation, I need that certificate, and I need my citizens to be able to get their building permits if they wanna use it. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm gonna throw something on the table and we'll see what we can do. Did you have a comment, Manager Bowman?
No, sir.
We'll remove enforcement from the title because there's no enforcement in the body. It's simply administration and implementation of floodplain management regulations by the county floodplain manager. We can remove the 5,000 or reduce that. I'd leave that up to either of you commissioners to make a suggestion. I also hear that Manager Whitehead needs to have somebody that he can send these cases to get it on the books that it's been looked at. And a conclusion has been stated so that it's in the record. So.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if someone put that in the form of a motion, I'd be happy to, and maybe even also delegate to the manager the authority to execute that once those changes have been made. We can go ahead and get something in place immediately reflecting those changes.
We do an awful lot of cooperating together between the city and the county. And, you know, our latest was before the state transportation and infrastructure board. That was most enlightening. And they also found out some things about that 11-member board that was there about Sierra County and the municipalities and your workload with water lines and pavement degradation and even Elephant Buttes issues. So I think we're moving. If the other commissioners are fine, I would strike the $5,000.
No, I agree with, and the enforcement,
And take the enforcement out and then let's review the document. Can I put that in a motion?
Yes, and unless you want it to come back to the board next month and wait to the effectiveness, we can authorize the manager to go ahead and execute it once it's been revised.
He wants it today because it's expired, so.
We'll work on it after the meeting and get it to him today, yes. But I don't believe that I'm gonna have those changes in place before the board concludes its meeting today, because I don't have the final draft of this in Word format. So I don't have it right now to make the changes to it, but I can do that by this afternoon and get it if you wanna authorize the manager to execute on your
Okay,
behalf.
so restate the motion, Dave, including.
Oh gosh, please don't make me. If you just add to your motion that the manager has the authority to execute the MOU once revised in accordance with the board's direction, I can go ahead and get that revised and.
So we're removing enforcement from the title.
Yes.
We're removing the $5,000 fee.
Yes, sir.
We're giving the manager the authority to sign this once it's revised.
Yes, sir.
After the approval.
I second.
All in favor say aye. 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 That motion is approved. Thank you, Manager Whitehead. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
This is fun, thank you so much.
Get out of here.
Mr. Chairman, I think the delegation might be unnecessary. Monica just sent me the draft in Word format, so I'm gonna make the changes now and hopefully have it to you to sign at the end of the.
Way to go, Monica. Okay, so we will do that and maybe be able to sign it. Item E, the JPA between County of Sierra Sheriff and the City of Elephant Butte provision of law enforcement services. Sheriff?
You wanna hear it or move it?
Well, let's see what he has to say.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I'll keep it quick, you should have it in front of you. This is just, adding an amendment to where our animal control, whenever we do take on those calls in the city of Elephant Butte, which does happen from time to time, gives them the authority to take action, and then also get the deputies at, and it also provides for us to bill the city of Elephant Butte when we take on those calls and have to call somebody out in the middle of the night. They do contract with the city of TRC for that as a primary response. However, we do keep getting those calls, and this provides for our animal control to have enforcement authority, as well as to bill the city of Elephant Butte whenever we have to pull people out.
Okay. That's a good response. I think they need to examine their primary contract on that, because I understand that oftentimes the animal control officers in TRC are not available. So
that has been a recurring issue. That's why we are making these amendments, and it's more expensive to call us than it is to call them, so we'll see if that alleviates some of the problem.
Understood. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the MOU.
I second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Well, since you got four.
That has
houses
money
rated
attached to
house,
it, too.
I didn't have mine.
Moving right along here.
Making more money for the sheriff.
So we're to item F, Local Government Road Fund Cooperative Agreement, and we've got 3 of these. So we'll consider all 3 of them in one shot if we can.
Alright, this is, just for our LGRF, funding for next year on our project. On cap, we're asking for $390,416, state share would be $492,812, and our, entity share would be $97,604, which will be, putting in for the waiver on that one. See our SB, which is our school bus, we'll be asking for $409,296. State share would be $306,972. Our entity share would be $102,324. And we do not do a waiver on school bus projects. Special project SP will be, we'll be asking for $475,579. State share will be $356,684. Entity share will be $118,895, which we'll be putting in for the waiver on that also.
Have we been getting the waivers on the CAP and the SP?
We have been, yes, sir.
Why can't you apply for waiver for the school bus?
I'm not real sure. We never had, continuous school bus waivers.
Okay, well, is there a motion?
What do you need?
All 3 voluntary projects.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve F, G, and H under the Local Government Road Fund Cooperative Agreement, CAP, SB, and SP.
And I would second it with one previous question. The matches are, if we don't get the waivers, we're okay?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. Okay. Great.
We're halfway through, Willard.
Just kidding.
Resolution 2026-44, CAP 27, participation in local government road fund program, and request for match waiver. Billy?
Yeah, this is just for the match waiver for CAP. If you want to do all 3 of them at once, I don't know if we can, but, the second one.
Sure we can.
Yes, we can.
School bus, 10B, we cannot actually ask for a waiver on that one, so we might need to scratch that resolution. So it's just 10A and 10C that we will be voting on.
So, Mr. Chairman, Billy, if I understand right, so you're talking 10B here, resolution 2026-45. We cannot ask for that match waiver, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's the school bus.
Okay, so
I move that we ask for the match waiver for item 10A, 2026-44, CAP 27, and resolution number 2026-46, SE 27.
I second.
all in favor?
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved, and we struck resolution 2026-45. Okay. Item D is resolution 2026-47, approving the participation in the program of the South Central Council of Governments. Manager Ball.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So this is our annual renewal of the participation in the COG. The annual cost is $1,219. Also required in this resolution is appointing a member as the designated representative and their alternate.
That's good. I have been the designee for coming on 8 years, so it's time for somebody else.
Congratulations, Hank. There's a, there may be an interruption in my tenure.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve, resolution number 2026-47, approving participation in the program of the South Central Council of Governments, fiscal year 26-27.
And become the designated representative? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second. You want me to be the alternate till then?
Sure.
Okay.
That's great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved. 2026-48, the FY 26 budget adjustment.
Good afternoon, Commissioner everyone. The first resolution today, 2026-48, is our final FY 26 budget amendment. This resolution includes the final amendments for fiscal year 2026. After completing our review, our year-end review and final fund balance analysis, these adjustments are necessary to ensure that all funds close the fiscal year with a positive fund balance before we begin fiscal year 27. In these adjustments, we are also closing out two funds that are no longer going to be used. The CLLA fund for 28. The balance remaining represents an earlier transfer of Sierra County funds to that fund. So this fund, with this transfer, can now be closed. We did ensure over the last year that all CLLA funding has been transferred over to Gantry County. We're also closing Fund 507 for electronic monitoring during fiscal year 26. The responsibility for those monitoring services were transferred to the state because the county no longer administers that program. The remaining funds are no longer needed and will now be transferred to the general fund and closed out. The final fund transfers on this resolution are the remaining adjustments from general fund to community projects, the DWI grant, the corrections fund, and emergency management services fund to bring those fund balances to their appropriate year-end amounts. Now, in that corrections fund, we have discussed in our previous quarterly budget presentations that we anticipated a shortfall in that fund. The final numbers confirmed our projection. That's why the transfer is about $112,000. Overall revenues in that particular fund declined by 12%. That's a decrease of around $74,000. The primary changes included the elimination of correction fees that reduced it by $45,000. We saw a drop in housing of municipal prisoners, about $5,000 there. And interstate detention distribution also dropped 46%. We were expecting about $114,000 and what we received was $62,000. Additionally, the state did recalculate their distribution and sent us a letter indicating that we were overpaid by $3,000. So the overall net impact with these transfers on the general fund is at $93,000 between closing those two funds and balancing the others. I will stand for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, complicated process, though. Thank you to you and your folks for staying on top of that. I'm just pleased that we've got the reserves and the positive balance at the end of the budget that we have. I think that's great management, Manager Vaughn. We're moving in a positive direction. And we also have strong reserves, and that's really a wonderful thing to have them in case we do have something happen that we need to call those dollars up. So you've heard the discussion and the final figures. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve resolution number 2026-48, fiscal year 26 budget adjustments.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved. We'll go on to resolution 2026-50, adopting the fiscal year 27 final budget. Yes, sir.
This resolution is to approve our fourth quarter financial report, which is submitted to DFA. The resolution attachment is our fourth quarter recap. General fund revenues increased by 17% over the prior year, while expenditures increased by about 13%. The road fund experienced a 42% increase in revenue, while expenditures increased 13%. The biggest changes we saw there in the road fund was the federal
Chair, I move to approve resolution number 2026-49, fiscal year fourth quarter financial report ending in June 30th, 2026.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item G is 2026-50, adopting the fiscal year 2027 final budget.
This resolution presents the county's final budget for fiscal year 27. Briefly go over the changes in the final budget compared to the preliminary budget that was presented a couple of months ago. So our general fund revenues, we did increase the tilt by $210,000. It went from 1.5 million to 1.7. We added 180 some interest income related to our investments, and I carried over a $10,000 reimbursement from Forest Service for some overtime services with the Sheriff's Department. In the expenditures, there was a change of $7,000 to our workers' comp budget to cover some additional insurance. The vector control budget was added to the facilities department in the amount of $15,600. And then we had two carryovers in the assessor's office and the sheriff's office. With the assessor's office, it's related to their catalyst PO. And then with the sheriff's office, it's a carryover related to Stone Garden in the amount of, no, I'm sorry, I got that confused. Their carryover in the general fund is related to the metal building that is being constructed on their property in the amount of $43,000. And then there was a small carryover of PO for $1,000. As a result of the resolution just approved for general fund transfers and a review of our final budget, we did decrease the transfers in our final budget for FY 27 from 2.5 million to 2.4. We were able to reduce the transfer from the general fund to the road fund, farm and range, landfill, and then add a transfer into the indigent fund. Other adjustments that were made were, again, the increase in budget to the Forest Reserve Revenue Road Fund. We added the $500,000 reversion of the Leo funds for Arrow Market. There was $116,000 added for LEPF for their FY 27 allotment. And then there's that distribution overpayment that we'll send back to the state for $3,406. And then we added a donation budget in Las Palomas. Additional changes that were made was to the SCURA budget for a new grant that they have with the state, that they now have to budget for and manage, $142,000. This has already been approved by the SCURA board. We amended to actuals the remaining DOT co-op funds. We had additional carryovers in the grant fund of $119,000, and then there was some travel carryovers for the clerk's office. The carryovers in the grant funds are for Stone Garden for $27,000, and then some ORC funding in the amount of $78,000 for the elevator. These are the primary changes reflected in the final budget, and I'll stand for any questions.
Final budget's due when?
July 31st.
That's what I thought. So we're in good shape. Excellent work.
Is that what you got? Is there a motion to approve?
This is a budget deal. I don't know if I want to move that one. I move to approve the final budget. Thank you all for your work.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion is approved.
Chairman, before we move forward, we do have a request. If we can bring up the resolution 2026-45 for SB. I think Billy has something to add to that item, if you could. It's one we had tabled or removed, but it looks like he has some information.
All right. Good news, Billy?
Yes, we do still need to approve that, we just need to take the wording out of the waiver.
Okay, we didn't table it, we just moved past it, so.
Yeah. So, is there a motion to approve resolution 2026-45, ASB 27, removing the waiver language. So moved. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Good catch. That concludes our business for today. Yahoo! We have no executive session. Yahoo! The next regular meeting is Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.